They're doing that there. We'll have to wait, won't we?
As we've heard, this year's collection concerns such matters as equality, fraud prevention, anti-money laundering, the casino and the microchipping of dogs. Now, each piece of legislation starts its journey as a bill printed on green paper. It's debated in the House of Keys and in the Legislative Council. There'll probably be amendments, and eventually a final version will emerge to everyone's satisfaction. The bill is then printed on white paper and becomes an act. It has to get royal assent, and then the master copy has to be brought here on July the 5th. Its title and summary are read out to you, the Manx people, so you know what's going on. It then has to be taken for the Legislative Council. Without this happening here today, the legislation can't become law. And there's one final step, the appointed day order. This is when the legislation actually becomes law. It might not be for days, weeks or even months after today, but it has to be clearly stated, for the obvious reason that if any one of us was prosecuted for breaking that law, then we could defend ourselves by claiming that no one knew when the law had come into force. So the appointed day order for each of these new acts will be clearly stated. And yes, a well-deserved round of applause there for the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines, Portsmouth. There's nothing quite so inspiring as a military band. Meanwhile, the members inside are preparing to sign these acts. Until the late 1980s, the Lieutenant Governor presided over all the sittings of Tynwald, and he would have been signing the acts today on behalf of the Legislative Council. However, this is no longer the case. We now have a President of Tynwald, and the Governor only presides over the open-air sitting on Tynwald Day. As the court has reconvened in the chapel, the Governor sits outside the bar of the court as an invited guest, but not as a participant. It's the President who presides. Indeed, in the Tynwald Chamber in Douglas, the Governor is always welcome to attend the sittings as a guest, and a special chair is reserved for him in the Strangers' Gallery, should he wish to watch the proceedings. We heard the Deemsters reading the title and a short description of the acts earlier. It's interesting to note in bygone days that the Deemsters were required to read out the entire act on Tynwald Day, and that was at a time when there was no public address system. The reason for the lengthy readings was because the Keys had been sitting in private, and until the full act was read out here at Tynwald, the Manx people had little idea what they'd been up to behind closed doors. It was their first opportunity to hear about the new laws. You just see the sword of state coming back into the chapel.
You don't like it?
And in a few moments, the captioning of this year's 14 acts will be undertaken.
Yeah. Yeah, where the march starts. Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that my colleague Bill Dale, who started the commentary today, is this year's recipient of the Tynwald Honour. The Tynwald Honour Medal is awarded to people who have made an outstanding contribution to Manx life over a significant period of time and have demonstrated a selfless commitment in doing so. And looking at the list of past recipients, they certainly meet that criteria. Harvey Briggs, Ian Qualtrough, Deemster William Kane, Norman Sale, Hector Duff, Jeff Carron, Nadine Crowther, Brian Stoll and Deemster Jack Corrin are the recipients so far since the award was started in 2007. And now Bill Dale, BEM, is to be added to this distinguished list. Bill was actually born here in St John's and as a young boy sang in the choir in the church here. And indeed today's organist, Derek Crellin, who's been playing here for over 60 years, was the organist at the time that Bill was a chorister. Bill joined the Isle of Man Times in 1970 and then joined Valerie Cottle on the newly formed Manx Star in 1972, a campaigning newspaper that many people will remember and regret the passing of. He was editor of the Weekly Times from 1977, but was famously fired on New Year's Eve in 1980.